Hey, what's going on, guys? Xbox All in channel, Jose Forever here. Decided to do this video. I know I'm a little bit late. Well, not a little late. I'm really late on this. I've wanted to do it for a couple weeks now, ever since the video was announced, but I've been kind of busy. But better late than never, I always say. And I was kind of inspired to do this because of the press conference that happened in the White House the other day, which is absolute fireworks, man. I've watched that several times, and saw a lot of people's commentary. Excuse me, guys. My throat's a little bit scratchy. And then absorbing everybody's commentary. I mean, across the globe, right? I mean, there's people. I have a certain political bent, but like I try to tell you guys on this channel, I spend a lot of time actually looking at people, and not necessarily on the other side of the aisle because they're pretty easy to figure out. If I'm being honest with you. Hey, what's up, Daniel? Daniel already getting it. Yeah, I'm gonna do this quick video, bro. And I learned my lesson from the other day, Daniel. I'm actually gonna jump right into the video, but I kind of want to set it up a little bit. But thanks for being here, brother. Um, yeah, and that's what I kind of like to do, guys. This is why, again, my channel's shifting and why I'm going to do this kind of stuff because I spend a lot of time actually looking at these things because it's interesting to me. And the commentary. And when I talk about this kind of stuff, I mean, even if you're politically charged like I am, you don't have to talk about it directly from your perspective. And that's one of the things I really liked about this video. JD Vance, he's a Republican. He's part of the Trump administration. He is the vice president of the United States. But it's always nice to see them go over and talk to things beyond borders. And naturally, the U.S. The United States is the biggest elephant in the room. A lot of times, right? This is one of the dynamics that we have, which that's why I appreciate it so much that they're actually doing that. The Trump administration is having so much transparency and having Zelensky come in and they did a live announcement from the White House. Now the thing went totally south. I'm not saying it didn't, but it's good to see that because I think a lot of times when I see people online commentating on things, they don't realize a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And unless you like this kind of stuff, it's just like if you like history, you probably know more than most. And I'm not saying people can't have their opinions, dude. Everybody has their opinions on stuff. It's the same way again with video games, right? There's some people that are casual gamers. There's some people that are hardcore. There are some people that are into the culture. There's some people just do it to relax. There's different levels, right? Same thing with comic books, pop culture, which I do on my channel. But again, this is why I'm doing this video because you see a different perspective. A lot of people came away with a different impression of JD Vance after watching this. And again, I already know this about the guy. I mean, a lot of people, because of his background and where he's from, what part of the country he's from, they set up. And this is natural that you have stereotypes about people. That's just the way it is, and biases, right? That's natural for anybody to do that. It's how you react or how you act on or how you base your decisions on that information that actually determines like if things are good or bad sometimes, right? And in the case of JD Vance, everybody just looks at him as a hick or a hillbilly and stuff like that, and then you get to watch him, on the world stage. Then people find out his little bit of his background, dude. He's a mix of a lot of different things, but Harvard graduate. You know, he went through that process and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to say that just that having a degree makes you the expert and stuff like that, but it's the amalgamation of everything, right? Life experiences, where he's been, what he's done to get to this point, right? So it's something that's in your portfolio, right? A lot of us are gamers that watch this channel. If you're looking at Game Pass, for example, right? Game Pass isn't just Halo. Game Pass isn't just AAA titles from Microsoft. Game Pass isn't just AA partnerships or AAA partnerships that Microsoft makes with other companies to put their content in there. It's ID at Xbox, dude. It's PC gaming. They're gonna put everything everywhere, kind of thing, right? It's when you look at what Game Pass actually is, it is in and of itself an ecosystem that exists within the Microsoft ecosystem, right? So and the reason I'm using that as an example is because when you look at JD Vance, he has certain backgrounds, right? He has a certain background that helps him look at the world in a more common sense, pragmatic and practical way. But he also has the bona fides of the educational background and the stuff to present things in a certain way as well, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people got from the meeting with Zelensky that President Trump had the other day is people realize how important decorum is, how important diplomacy is. There is a need for it, right? The thing that a lot of people get confused with this, and I'm glad that people are beginning to realize this, is that it's not that you have a problem with diplomacy, you have a problem with the way that diplomacy is used. And of course, when people who lie, even though they use diplomacy, say one thing and do another, right? And also keeping in mind that they have to keep the best interest of their people, and they're representing their country, right? That's the great thing about President Trump. That's why his America First thing resonates with people. I know the media tried to paint it like racist and stuff like that, but if you look past all of that, if you look past the noise, right? Because when some people think of America, they think white people, unfortunately, and America is like the most diverse country. This is why we don't fall in the traps of other countries that are dealing with stuff right now, like birth rate, the problem with their birth rate, the problem with their melting pot, quote unquote, right? Because a lot of these countries are run by people that want to have that multicultural that multicultural moment that America has struggled in for the last 100 years, right? And I'm talking about like when the first immigrants started coming. I'm talking about old country, right? With all of this stuff that's going on, one of the problems with them building coalitions in Europe, and specifically Europe, is people think of Europe as a whole, when you should really look at Europe like how people should look at Africa. When people think of Africa, a lot of just normie people just look at Africa as like, okay, it's just one country. It's not. It's a bunch of different countries on a continent. That's why Africa is considered a continent. Same thing with Europe, right? This is why these people have within themselves internal conflict. And the only thing we have in common with a lot of the citizenry in Europe is that they're having problems with their government because their government are a bunch of globalists, right? And they believe in a new world order. Right? The European Union was kind of started on that, right? It was actually a counterbalance to the U.S. because they wanted to um, have more. That's ironic of it because they expect the U.S. to do so much, but back then they wanted the U.S. to do less. It's always a bitter. It's look. It's always a bad relationship with Europe. We've always, and not in a. I shouldn't say bad. We've had a complicated relationship with Europe for years, from the way they look at us and the way we kind of look at them, and of course America being again the biggest elephant in the room, because of our economic and military and political power. As you saw the other day, you can't have a person coming into the White House and dictating terms to the president of the United States. And it's amazing to me that I do see some people out there supporting Zelensky and what he did, who are American citizens. Just blows my mind, right? Because this stuff continues. This is why, um, if you watch what the media is doing right now, it's amazing to me how they're trying to paint the whole thing and trying to slant it against Trump. Where their problem is the electorate and the general population who um, voted for Trump, not because of right wing causes or conservative causes. A lot of them voted, like most people do, for self interest. Because if this thing goes south, man, and there's boots on the ground, right? A lot of these people expect us to go, America to go, right? And this is one of the reasons why President Trump is forcing this deal, right? And rightfully so. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be the ones paying for it. We're the ones going to be putting the boots on the ground. It's going to be our people that's going to fight the war. With help from our allies, quote unquote help, right? But honestly, if you look at the militaries of the world and their military, their GDP, and what they contribute, right? It's in everybody's best interest if we get a peace deal on this stuff. Right? So anyway, we'll get past that. Sorry, I had to kind of. I did a video of that already, and I'm already getting distracted and off topic. But let me run with this really quickly. We'll do this video first, and I'll be stopping and doing some commentary if I feel like it. So just to let you guys know. Okay. So here we go.
The kind introduction, and I want to start by thanking President Macron for hosting the event and, of course, for the lovely dinner last night.
Sorry, this has to do with AI. I should have introduced this. I apologize. This has to do with AI. And for me, the reason I'm doing this video is AI and American policy. And he says a lot of stuff in here that I actually agree with. That's why we're going to talk about it.
During the dinner, President Macron looked at me and asked if I would like to speak, and I said, "Mr. President, I'm here for the good company and free wine, but I have to earn my keep today." And I, of course, want to thank Prime Minister Modi for being here and for co-hosting the summit, for all of you for participating. And I'm not here this morning to talk about AI safety, which was the title of the conference a couple of years ago. I'm here to talk about AI opportunity. When conferences like this...
See, already, when I first watched this, I already was tuned in. I was dialed in when he said that. Right, because there's already when it comes to AI, there's already people setting the security part up, which is needed. I'm not saying it's not needed. Right, I work in an area where I mean everybody's talking about it, everybody's looking at it, and it's a big deal. Because especially I did a video with Dea, and we talked about quantum computing and how that can change the landscape when it comes to security and national security. So that's important. But already, when he's talking about this, you know he's going to go in a different direction because a lot of this conference right here, a lot of the people are looking at cybersecurity. Um, they're looking for firewalls, setting up, making sure that their security systems are not leaked, the way that they share information, all of that stuff, right? And AI to change all that. So again, I'm not trying to downplay the security concerns. It's definitely there, but when you look at the Trump administration and what they're pushing, dude, everything is forward thinking. Everything is, you know, I'm a very pessimistic person by nature. That's why I'm laughing. But everything is forward thinking. Everything is futuristic. Everything is like, okay, let's see what we can where we can take this and what can we do and what kind of opportunities that we can get utilizing AI.
Convene to discuss a cutting edge technology, oftentimes I think our response is to be too self conscious, too risk averse. But never have I encountered a breakthrough in tech that so clearly calls us to do precisely the opposite. Now, our administration, the Trump administration, believes that AI will have countless revolutionary applications in economic innovation, job creation, national security, healthcare, free expression, and beyond. And to restrict its development now will not only unfairly benefit incumbents in the space, it would mean paralyzing one of the most promising technologies we have seen in generations.
Okay, so I also wanted to point this out, guys. Watch the reactions from the people in the room and their body language. You can kind of tell where they stand. And not particularly, not just on AI, but just, you have an American vice president addressing a European audience for the most part. Right? There's a lot of different people from all over the world there, but a lot of foreign dignitaries, a lot of foreign policymakers. So something I just wanted to point out to you guys.
And with that in mind, I'd like to make four main points today. Number one, this administration will ensure that American AI technology continues to be the gold standard worldwide, and we are the partner of choice for others, foreign countries, and certainly businesses as they expand their own use of AI. Number two, we believe that excessive regulation of the AI sector could kill a transformative industry just as it's taking off, and will make every effort to encourage pro-growth AI policies.
Sorry, just to the first point, America First policy, right? Which is very important. It's if I know some people don't agree with this, I think it's a certain way, but it's really important, dude. I mean, you need to take the lead on this. Our country needs to. It's in the best interest of everybody. And I'm not saying that they're gonna try and take over, dominate the world with it, but you want the U.S. to be in the lead, right? Because this ties in again to national security, our footprint on the globe, right? We have the money and the technology and the power, right, to do it, or we'll have the power. A lot of this stuff with AI, one of the problems that other countries are going to have with that is they have green policies, and that's why the U.S. is shifting from that. Again, dude, you guys are, I'm a Microsoft, I'm an Xbox channel, so I talk about Microsoft, even Microsoft themselves, Google, Apple, all these guys, they understand what it's going to take to get AI to where it needs to be, and energy is a big part of that.
And I like to see that deregulatory flavor making its way into a lot of the conversations this conference. Number three, we feel very strongly that AI must remain free from ideological bias, and that American AI will not be co-opted into a tool for authoritarian censorship. And finally, number four, the Trump administration will maintain a pro-worker growth path for AI, so it can be a potent tool for job creation in the United States. And I appreciate Prime Minister Modi's point. AI, I really believe, will facilitate and make people more productive. It is not going to replace human beings. It will never replace human beings. And I think too many of the leaders in the AI industry, when they talk about this fear of replacing workers, I think they really miss the point.
So, and that's another thing I was talking about kind of last week, and something I actually believe, it's a tool, right? This is where my perspective is, and I'm not saying I'm right, guys. This is just my perspective, but this is what I like the most about this speech, right? And this is something I talk to even my kids. Right? My daughter is a creative person, right? And there's people utilizing AI right now, right? And then where I work as well, do data entry, right? A lot of this stuff AI could take over and possibly use, but um, there's also, look, if you look at history, there's a lot of things that people did not want, and there's because certain things that were invented, and I'm not talking on even major scales like minor scales, right? That totally changed people's lives. Most of it for the good, some of it could be for the bad. But the great thing about living in this time period right now, this is what I tell my kids all the time, is that you got to learn from history, understand trends, look at patterns, right, and then what you could do. And I don't explain it to them like that. I explain it in terms they can understand. Um, but look at this exactly like he's saying, it's a tool because I believe the same thing, right? I don't think we could ever make an intelligence that could superplant an actual human being. I mean, and that's just my belief. I have a Christian belief in that as well, man. We are uniquely made. There's a lot of things that the human body, um, the biology of how we're created. I don't see that ever happening, right? And for me, I'm always of the mindset of, yeah, you could use it to make you better, make you smarter in certain aspects in certain ways, and then as long as, like, this is another thing, as long as it's on personal choice, right? And that things are vetted and that things are made sure that when you implement certain things, like the cause and the effect is what. So that's what makes me interested in this a lot, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out of this, and I think mostly for the positive. Right? Unless we don't learn from history as well, dude. I mean, look, dude, there's bad actors in here in the world. There always has been. There's people that are going to take advantage. There's going to be people that are going to try to use this stuff for nefarious purposes, and that's why you got to stand like more on a righteous scale, like on a moral standard. Right now, who's going to be that moral bearer? I prefer it to be our country moving forward. But I mean, look, dude, it's going to be a partnership. There's a lot of people that's going to be working on this stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm more positive and I'm more upbeat about this. I'm not saying there's going to be drawbacks, right? But I mean, we have to get to point B at some way. We're at A right now. We need to get to B. Hopefully, we get to D, right? And look, pace ourselves and stuff like that. But I prefer to take a more positive outlook on it.
AI, we believe, is going to make us more productive, more prosperous, and more free. The United States of America is the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way. The U.S. possesses all components across the full AI stack, including advanced semiconductor design, frontier algorithms, and of course, transformational applications. Now, the computing power this stack requires is integral to advancing AI technology. And to safeguard America's advantage, the Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the U.S. with American designed and manufactured chips. Now, just because we're the leader doesn't mean we want to or need to go it alone, of course. And let me be emphatic about this point. America wants to partner with all of you. And we want to embark on the AI revolution before us with the spirit of openness and collaboration. But to create that kind of trust, we need international regulatory regimes that fosters the creation of AI technology. Technology rather than strangles it. And we need our European friends in particular to look to this new frontier with optimism rather than trepidation. Now, the development of cutting edge AI in the U.S. is no accident. By preserving an open regulatory environment, we've encouraged American innovators to experiment and to make unparalleled R&D investments. Of the $700 billion, give or take, that's estimated to be spent on AI in 2028, over half of it will likely be invested in the United States of America. Now, this administration will not be the one to snuff out the startups and the grad students producing some of the most groundbreaking applications of artificial intelligence. Instead, our laws will keep big tech, little tech, and all other developers on a level playing field. Now, with the president's recent executive order on AI, we're developing an AI action plan that avoids an overly precautionary regulatory regime while ensuring that all Americans benefit from the technology and its transformative potential. Now, we invite your countries to work with us and to follow that model if it makes sense for your nations. However, the Trump administration is troubled by reports that some.
And that's an important point, guys. I think I messed up. I was commenting, but my mic was off because there's a lot of background noise going on where I'm living, so I'm trying to avoid that as the video is playing. So bear with me. I do apologize. Um, but he makes an excellent point right there, right? If you want to, if it makes sense for your country, and that's one of the things I like about this new administration, right? It's America first, right? But part of what America first is not just focus on America, right? Because we understand we have a big role to play in the global markets, right? On the global scale as far as defense and stuff. A lot of countries rely on us, right? So the point that he's trying to make, right, is already because we already see that, right? We saw that in the last election. A lot of these um, top ranked CEOs from all these tech companies basically came out, which ironically, Microsoft did not do because they did not do this. And it's just because of the way Satya Nadella looks at things as well, futurist, forward thinker. But a lot of the other tech giants, um, because of the election, because of the climate politically in the country, were doing things to mask information that was going on there. So this is why, at least for the Trump administration, there. I hope you guys can hear me. Yeah, the Trump administration is ultra focused on that, right? Because they experienced it firsthand, right? A lot of people who was involved in these things politically were doing things to work against the election of Donald Trump in 2020, right? So they're speaking from experience, right? And regardless of politics, anytime, right, voices are going to be stifled, right? You should always, that should be a red flag for anybody, regardless of what political side you fall on, right? It's just something, because like, and that's for me too. Look, dude, like I say that on my channel, man. There's PlayStation guys that come in here to talk about stuff. You can come in and talk all you want to, right? I don't care, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to change my mind, right? Because I already know what I believe. I already know how I'm going to participate in whatever I do, man, regardless of what it is in pop culture, right? On this level, it's kind of the same thing, bigger scale, naturally. But you know, there's nothing wrong with letting people speak. In fact, if you can't, a lot of times it's just the way I think, dude. Sometimes when I see people doing that, they start shutting down lines of communication. They start becoming authoritarian, um, because they can't handle an opposing opinion, right? That shows more weakness on the person that's doing that kind of stuff than it actually the person that. And it can, and I'm that way even if I disagree with the person, right? Like say if I'm on a conservative think tank, and then I hear the liberals speaking, and the conservatives want to shut them down. I'm like, no, let them speak. Right? How weak are you that you, especially as conservatives? And that's just a personal thing with me, guys. As a conservative, I'm like, no, dude, we should be rooted in what we believe in. So much to the point that whatever comes across you should not be scared of. Right? If you're worth your weight or worth your salt in conservatism, you should be able to listen to anybody's opinion. Right? That's the way I feel. And again, this is something that I really loved about the speech is that he's confronting it head on because already there's bad actors out there doing that. Right? It happens in business, it happens in politics, it's happening in pop culture. So naturally, why would you think it wouldn't happen in AI? This is why, and this is one of the things I talk about in this channel. This is why I can't stand politics. If I'm being honest with you, especially in this day and age, because it's in everything. We can't escape it. That's why I'm doing these videos now to give my perspective because it's absolutely in everything. I don't think it should be. Again, they say politics is downstream of pop culture. I don't like that at all. Right, as a person who loves pop culture and keeps up with politics, I think they should be separated. I miss the old days, right? Where as a child I didn't worry about this kind of stuff because number one, we had real problems in life, and number two, this is something that adults took care of. Right now, you have just too many people getting involved in politics that don't have the experience and don't have the timing. I call it time and grade, right? Because how you feel a certain way when you're younger, right? Guaranteed you. It's like 18, 19, 20 making certain decisions. By the time you're 30, for the most part, dude, a lot of that stuff will change, right? And it's on two fronts, man. I'm not just blaming the younger generation; it's the older generation as well. The older generation has kind of, you know, not just made bad decisions and never course corrected from their younger days, right? But the older generation as well has added to it because they renege on their responsibilities as the older generation. That's one of the problems I see, and especially with millennials. I'll just be honest with you, right? And I've seen it with my kids because my kids are um, are being basically taught in schools and deal with millennials of a certain age group, right? And it's like they don't want to grow up, which is sad, right? So anyway, sorry, getting distracted, but we'll get back to this.
Foreign governments are considering tightening the screws on U.S. tech companies with international footprints. Now, America cannot and will not accept that. And we think it's a terrible mistake, not just for the United States of America, but for your own countries. Now, U.S. innovators of all sizes already know what it's like to deal with onerous international rules. Many of our most productive tech companies are forced to deal with the EU's Digital Services Act and the massive regulations it created about taking down content and policing so-called misinformation. And of course, we want to ensure the internet is a safe place. But it is one thing to prevent a predator from preying on a child on the internet, and it is something quite different to prevent a grown man or woman from accessing an opinion that the government thinks is misinformation. Meanwhile, for smaller firms, navigating the GDPR means paying endless legal compliance costs or otherwise risking massive fines. Now, for some, the easiest.
Okay, sorry guys. I know I'm gonna keep on stopping. I'm gonna just keep on. I mean, this is why I like this video so much, right? Because he's hitting the nail on the head. For a lot of the bloviating that these countries do about being free, democratic societies, and it's funny that they use the word societies, right? The problem with this is that deep down inside, dude, in order to be a free society, quote unquote, right, you need to let the free expression of ideas and speech be paramount, right? This is something, and look, dude, we were guilty of that as well, especially the last 4 years with the stuff that we're doing. But this is what I like about the speech because he's doing a lot of different things at one time. This is why I had to watch this several times because he hits a lot of nails on the head. And this is him shifting right to the more political side, to the more socially political side, to the more overarching totalitarianism of governments and how they can become. Because that's one of the things that a lot of the countries in Europe are doing right now. I wouldn't necessarily care personally because I don't live in those countries, right? I don't elect those people. I'm kind of like that here, man. I mean, I live in a state that we have our own problems, let alone what's going on in every other state. But because we're a republic, right? At the end of the day, right? Everything is inflicted upon the electorate, right? And with Europe, it's a little bit different, right? Because they're kind of more nation statish with their politics and stuff like that. So the problem and why this matters and why I like this speech is because what they're doing is infringing upon what we want to do, right? And that's where the diplomacy and stuff like that comes in. But it's coming to the point now where they're actually taking they're taking actionable um, they're taking action on a lot of the stuff that we don't agree with, right? Especially the type of society we are, and how that all plays out at the end, we'll see. There's a definitely again, as you're listening to this speech, the Trump administration has a different definite slant. I'm not saying they don't, right? But at the end of the day, there's a lot of the stuff that's going on right now that we don't see in the forefront. But I'll be honest with you, man. Especially when it comes to Europe and their policies, they're so very obvious of what they want to do. And to me, it's always been a thing with Europe, like what they want to dictate and how they want their ideals and their society to be like and stuff like that, which is fine if we didn't live in a global marketplace like we do now. And that's why I don't like globalism at all, right? And I'm saying you got to cut the ties of communication, but everybody's just got everybody else's finger in their own Kool-Aid, and hopefully that's something the Trump administration will draw back on. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
This way to avoid the dilemma has been to simply block EU users in the first place. Is this really the future that we want, ladies and gentlemen? I think the answer for all of us should be no. Now, there's no issue where we worry about more than regulation when it comes to energy. And again, I appreciated the comments of so many at the conference because they recognize that we stand now at the frontier of an AI industry that is hungry for reliable power and high quality semiconductors. Yet too many of our friends are deindustrializing on the one hand and chasing reliable power out of their nations and off their grids with the other. The AI future is not going to be won by hand wringing about safety. It will be won by building, from reliable power plants to the manufacturing facilities that can produce the chips of the future.
And again, this is another reason why I respect this guy a lot. You know, the energy policy thing has been a big issue, especially here in the United States. And for a lot of politicians that try and speak on this kind of stuff, right, it becomes like a uh, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing, right? Like if you have one side that's trying to push green, and then you have the other side that's trying to push oil, it kind of becomes a back and forth. But here's some actual actionable um, things that we can talk about right now, right? Like a lot of people, at the end of the day, like I said, we've been doing videos on our channel talking about AI, but more importantly, quantum computing, right? The amount of energy it's going to take to push that forward, dude. As people are saying, dude, this could be like the next big thing, quantum computing. And Microsoft just came out with a chip, right? And the way that their chip works, dude. And look, I'm going to start going down this road on my channel because there's actually like the more technical side of it, and there's the side of stuff that people are thinking in a more 3D, 4D chess kind of way, right? When it comes to quantum mechanics, dude, there's a lot of people out there. I've been watching those videos as well, trying to process it. Dude, it's hard. I kind of get it. Being a person of faith, man, it's just like you have certain foundational stuff when it comes to Christianity, but it's the things that go around Christianity as well. And I'm talking about the actual personage of God, the actual personage of faith, the things that can't be seen, right? So when you hear people talk about quantum energy, quantum computing, um, the chips that Microsoft, like a chip that well, Google did this, IBM has one, Google has one. The interesting thing about Microsoft, right, is when you listen to it, it goes beyond just simple engineering, right? There's a metaphysical aspect of it. That's the word I'm looking for. So there's people going down the metaphysical road, and we'll go down that way too, because I find it really interesting. This is again thinking in 3D, thinking outside the box. That's way outside the box, right? Because the way that people are talking about it, right, with excuse me, with quantum computing, dude, it could actually have metaphysical aspects that are being influenced. Now, all of this is just in theory. I think it's finally interesting. I would like to talk about it on the channel, right? But even to get to all of this, my point being, to get all of this kind of stuff, right, you need energy, right? We've always needed energy, dude. This is the one thing I can't stand about green energy people, right? Because they don't care, man. If you listen to somebody who promotes green energy, right, and if you just listen to it just for a second, dude, it's not technical, dude. It has nothing to do with energy per se, dude. It's a faith. A lot of these guys are believers. Just listen to the way that they talk, right? Because they don't think about it in reason, right? Like for me, I'm looking at stuff like, dude, if green energy only produces so much energy, where are you going to get the rest of the energy if your population is a certain size, right? This throws a whole monkey wrench into it because not not just AI, which is in and of itself is going to suck up a lot of energy, right? Right. Now you have quantum computing coming into the mix and actual microchips being made, right? And so that throws an even bigger monkey wrench into the works where these guys can't ignore it anymore. And that's what makes this speech so great, right? Because this is something that's an America first thing, right, dude? Drill, baby, drill. You know, Trump says that all the time. Even though it's a one-off and it's just a statement, it fires up the base, it pisses off the people on the other side, right? Which I enjoy. I'll be honest with you. I told you guys, I'm a child. But at the end of the day, dude, there's reasons why, and this is what they're talking about right now. Dude, you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff if you can't produce energy. And I'll even go as far as saying, like, dude, I mean, is the energy that we have, whether it's coal, oil, or gas, and then now they're doing nuclear. Like, it's funny to me that nuclear's on the table. My whole life growing up, and nuclear was bad, nuclear bad, nuclear bad, nuclear bad. And the people that would say nuclear bad is usually on the left side of politics, right? On the liberal side of politics. Now these same people, this party, right? Now they're the same people that say, you know what, nuclear is pretty clean. It's better than oil and gas, right? Of course, there's a political tinge to it. They're not wrong, right? And then nuclear is totally different from when I was growing up. You know, as society moves along, as the human race evolves, right? You know, technologies get better, dude. That's proven, right? You get to see it in the computers that we use, in the phones that we use every day, right? So let's have some common sense, and practical sense as well when we're moving forward with this kind of stuff. I thought this was absolutely amazing that you talked about this. If you see what he's doing, right, he's talking about both tech and he's talking about policy and he's merging the two. And he's also bringing a myriad of other things that's an America First agenda.
At a personal level, what excites me most about AI is that it is grounded in the real and the physical economy. The success of the sector isn't just a matter of smart people sitting in front of a computer screen and coding. It depends on those who work with their hands. Even as robotics will change our factories, it will certainly make our healthcare providers better at treating diseases, but it will also depend on the data produced by those healthcare providers, by those doctors and nurses. I believe it will help us create and store new modes of power in the future. But right now, AI cannot take off unless the world builds the energy infrastructure to support it. Now, it's my view that tech innovation over the last 20 years has often conjured images of smart people staring at computer screens, engineering in the world of bits. But the AI economy will primarily depend on and transform the world of atoms.
100%, dude. That's one of the stigmas I think that people get hung up when it comes to tech. I've seen it firsthand in informatics, clinical informatics, how that was created, because you had a tech side and then you had a medical side, and when these people would meet, they couldn't come to they couldn't come to consensus on a lot of things, right? Because you have two different types of people trying to work together, and they would, right? But it was hard, and so what ended up happening as technology got better, right? Um, People figured out that, oh, instead of having the tech and the medical, let's merge the two, and then you have people that are medical with medical backgrounds that also have technical backgrounds, right? So that's what he's kind of talking about, because I've seen the evolution of that. And look, I'm not saying that's going to be everywhere, right? Things will change. They have to change, right? And what we should be focusing on is what kind of change, and that's what I like what he says here, because at the end of the day, this is what it matters, dude. You can build all the stuff in the world, but how are you going to use it? How is it applied? Like you can have a lot of knowledge in your head, but what do you do with that knowledge, right? How can you apply it? Like in your job, you can know every single thing about something, but when it comes to applying that knowledge, right, and actually being a person that becomes valuable in whatever organization you is or you're in, right? That's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, right? And that's what he's talking about right now. Again, this is what I like about him a lot. I respected the guy, right? Look, dude, he's a former Marine as well. Um, he has a lot of the bona fides that I look at somebody that like, okay, he earned his position, right? But the thing about it is, when I heard this, dude, it's just like, okay, he gets it, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to boil down to. You can make a supercomputer, but how does that? How are you going to use that supercomputer, right? You can make a quantum computer that can do all these magnificent things, but what at the end of the day, how is it going to help us as a society or help us as an individual, right? The reason why cell phones are so popular now is because you can do so many things on them, right? Some I think are bad, a couple of things are probably bad, but for the most part, good, right? And at the end of the day, this is how you build your economy on.
Now, at this moment, we face the extraordinary prospect of a new industrial revolution, one on par with the invention of the steam engine or Bessemer steel. But it will never come to pass if overregulation deters innovators from taking the risks necessary to advance the ball. Nor will it occur if we allow AI to become dominated by massive players looking to use the tech to censor or control users' thoughts. And I'd ask if you step back a moment and ask yourself, who is most aggressively demanding that we, meaning political leaders gathered here today, do the most aggressive regulation? It is very often the people who already have an incumbent advantage in the market. And when a massive incumbent comes to us asking us for safety regulations, we ought to ask whether that safety regulation is for the benefit of our people or
100% right there. Just follow the money, right? Just the trail of breadcrumbs. This is why if you guys want to go watch something that's really good, I was watching a lot of the stuff that was going on in Africa, and a lot of the countries over there and their governments, they would really, lay into the West, and rightfully so, because the West is doing that right now. And by the West, I mean America to Europe, all of us on the western side of the aisle, right? Because what they're doing is they're telling third world countries who are trying to come up now, hey, look, dude, if you're going to do certain things, we expect you to have a less of a carbon footprint. You have countries in Africa that's like carbon footprint, bro. We're struggling over here, dude. We're trying to get water. We're trying to produce more food for our people. We're trying to come up. We're trying to develop our own economies, and rightfully so, right? Because on the flip side, right, we're over here complaining that we have to support these guys. So now they want to take the lead, right? But then the West is like, well, but you gotta have solar panels, right? So that doesn't dude, that doesn't make any sense, right? And it's a bit hypocritical, and so 100% of what JD's saying is true.
or whether it's for the benefit of the incumbent. Now, over the last few years, we've watched as governments, businesses, and nonprofit organizations have advanced unpopular and I believe downright ahistorical social agendas through AI. In the US, we had AI image generators trying to tell us that George Washington was black or that America's doughboys in World War I were in fact women. Now we laugh at this now, and of course it was ridiculous, but we have to remember the lessons from that ridiculous moment. And what we take from it is that the Trump administration will ensure that AI systems developed in America are free from ideological bias and never restrict our citizens' right to free speech. We can trust our people to think, to consume information, to develop their own ideas, and to debate with one another in the open marketplace of ideas.
That's why this election was so important. If I'm being honest, people ask me all the time, right? We were going down that slippery slope. There's a lot of people in the government, man, that for some reason they're pro-socialist, right? And they're beyond liberalism. Liberalism is done. It's dead. It's gone. Liberalism in and of itself. Yeah, I like to talk about that, the classic liberalism, and there's still people like that out there. Some of them went over to the what they consider the right, which they're not on the right. They're just a little bit past the middle because they were kind of in the middle, more towards the left. But now they just shifted from left to right because you can't be on the left anymore, right? Because the left is they want a socialist, a communist type of government, right? Which is ironic, right? Because a lot of these people learn about this stuff in college, but there's no real world application. Because if you look at real world applications, dude, this is where all these countries are failing right now. And the only countries that are making it that are communist countries, like you have China and in some aspects Russia, um, it's because they have this kind of crony capitalism because they understand that they have to produce something in order to keep themselves alive. It's almost like a virus, right? A virus is eventually it kills the host. But in order for a virus to survive, it has to feed. That's what communism is, right? It'll do what it needs to do to survive, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, it just implodes upon itself because of the type of ideology it is, as far as the politics. It's almost like a religion, almost, right, per se, because people have to coalesce around it, and so that's what you see a lot of times. So I'm really, again, right, this is really important. And when people ask me why the election was important this year, this is why. It was important in 2020, right? It was important in 2016. Every year is important, right? Because little by little, we start shifting more towards communism in this country, which is bad, right? And so that's why you need somebody like Trump to come in and shake everything up and do the things that he's doing. And you can see the look on everybody's faces, right? Because it's basically directed to a lot of the stuff that people in Europe are doing. And some people get it, some people don't, right? Because some people are part of it. So again, really glad that he's doing that.
Now, we've also watched as hostile foreign adversaries have weaponized AI software to rewrite history, surveil users, and censor speech. This is hardly new, of course. As they do with other tech, some authoritarian regimes have stolen and used AI to strengthen their military, intelligence, and surveillance capabilities, capture foreign data, and create propaganda to undermine
China. He's talking about China.
other nations' national security. I want to be clear. This administration will block such efforts, full stop. We will safeguard American AI and chip technologies from theft and misuse, work with our allies and partners to strengthen and extend these protections, and close pathways to adversaries attaining AI capabilities that threaten all of our people. And I would also remind our international friends here today that partnering with such regimes, it never pays off in the long term. From CCTV to 5G equipment, we're all familiar with cheap tech in the marketplace that's been heavily subsidized and exported by authoritarian regimes. But as I know,
Again, that's China. I'm harping on this, right? Because look, guys, at the end of the day, if you want things to advance, and you can even apply this to gaming, you have to buy stuff. You have to spend money. There's one thing that's ticking me off, when it comes to video games. Sorry, I'm switching gears here. Right, is that I see a lot of people up there talking about the how the actual um, you know gaming and how it's failing, how consoles aren't selling, how stuff isn't going forward and stuff again. You guys know how I feel about the economy, but even that aside, dude, if you want to participate in gaming, do support it. Right. This is the heavy lifting that guys like myself and other guys in the brotherhood in this in our Xbox community. We know that because we're the ones that had to do it back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And so if you guys are gonna participate in the culture of gaming, dude, support the culture of gaming. This is what he's talking about. Now he's of course on a bigger scale with AI and stuff like that, dude. Because what ends up happening is like exactly what he's saying, dude. You have a cheaper imitation, right? Naturally, you get it for a cheaper price. But as you guys have seen ever since the pandemic, if you order stuff from Amazon, right, and they get it from a cheaper price, it's probably coming from an unreputable source. And then the stuff that you're buying, right, it doesn't matter because it doesn't last, right? In fact, I've seen this one person, right. This is what I'd say, like Payless shoes. Look, the Payless shoes was always a kind of a cool thing. Like maybe you just need shoes right away, something cheap. Didn't have money, boom, you bought it, right? But Payless shoes are made to last. Right? There's a reason why they're cheap, right? But if you want a good pair of shoes, you go out and get a good pair of shoes. Right? You can apply that to gaming, man. Look, dude, if you want the gaming to grow, dude, you have to support it, dude. That's any industry, honestly. But that's one of the problems. What is one of my pet peeves? In fact, I was gonna start doing videos about that, a rant about that, right? Because it's really irritating me. Because some of the biggest YouTubers, some of the biggest people in the gaming community that talk about this stuff, they do not either own the console that they're talking about, or they don't buy the games that they're talking about. And I'm not talking. And look, I could understand not buying the games because financially you're strapped. We live in tough economic times, right? But you don't buy the games because you don't support gaming, or you have some ideological bent, or whatever. And even if you had one, I would understand that more, right? Maybe the game or the director does something that you don't agree with, so you're not gonna buy it, right? But at the end of the day, most of these guys aren't even buying any game, right? Or when they do buy a game, dude, they wait for it to go on sale. Right? And that's fine, dude. Look, everybody's built different. Everybody's, especially now, again, I understand the economy, right? But if you have the biggest microphone and you're talking about this kind of stuff, you got to put in at least. And this is one of the things I love about what he's saying right here, right? Is there's other countries in the world that don't put in, right? A lot of countries steal the stuff. This is why but I don't worry about it because it's just like somebody who cheats on a test, right? You copy from other people, you get good grades, you start moving up, you start passing. At some point in time, you're gonna have to show you're gonna have to apply. Like I said earlier, you have to apply the knowledge, right? Say like you got all the good grades and you got your diploma and all this kind of stuff by cheating, and then you go out and get a job. At the end of the day, what you did that shows something, what you performed at. But then how can you apply that? And if you don't do the research, if you don't put in the R&D, if you don't do the stuff yourself, dude, you're gonna be a paper tiger. That's why I use the term paper tiger with China specifically, right? Anybody can take something and copy it. Anybody can take something, copy it, and make it better, right? But at the end of the day, what are you doing to create? What are you doing to innovate? This is why America is kind of like is unique in that perspective. A lot of this stuff comes out of America because a lot of this stuff, look, dude. At the end of the day, dude, a lot of this stuff. I mean, that's why I know my station in life, dude. Because I don't want to be doing most of the stuff that other people do. But we have the people in this country because we have free speech, because we have liberty, because we have these inalienable rights that America stands for, right? That somebody like Elon Musk can come here and do what he does, right? Because there's no barriers. In fact, we celebrate it for the most part, unless you're doing something evil, right? And it's not this made up evil that a lot of people like to think, oh, you're greedy because you have a lot of money, right? The world revolves around money. Of course, you got to look at how people use it, if they're breaking any laws or not, or if they're just a greedy person, dude. At the end of the day, that's their right to be that way, right? As long as they're not hurting anybody or breaking laws. But if they start doing that, of course, right, you have to look at that. But at the end of the day, this is why this is important, right? You can take and steal and build off of anybody. This is what we do every day, actually, right? But at the end of the day, you still need the innovators and the forward thinkers.
And I think some of us in this room have learned from experience. Partnering with them means chaining your nation to an authoritarian master that seeks to infiltrate, dig in, and seize your information infrastructure. Should a deal seem too good to be true, just remember the old adage that we learned in Silicon Valley: if you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. Finally, this administration wants to be very clear about one last point. We will always center American workers in our AI policy. We refuse to view AI as a purely disruptive technology that will inevitably automate away our labor force. We believe, and we will fight for policies that ensure that AI is going to make our workers more productive, and we expect that they will reap the rewards with higher wages, better benefits, and safer and more prosperous communities.
Hey, Pepe,
From
welcome to the
law to
podcast, brother.
medicine, manufacturing, the most immediate applications of AI almost all involve supplementing, not replacing, the work being done by Americans. Now, combined with this administration's worker-first approach to immigration, we believe that a U.S. labor force prepared to use AI to its fullest extent will instead attract the attention of businesses that have offshored some of these roles. To accomplish this, the administration will make sure that America has the best trained workforce in the world. Our schools will teach students how to manage, how to supervise, and how to interact with AI-enabled tools as they become more and more a part of our everyday lives. And as AI creates new jobs and industries, our government, businesses.
That's why DOE is getting destroyed right now. They're going to revamp the educational system. They need to, because we need to become more competitive. And actually, the way we teach our kids it doesn't make sense, and it's anti-competitive. So, method to the madness, guys. I always say that. I know some people don't like me saying that, but there's a method to the madness.
And labor organizations have an obligation to work together to empower the workers, not just of the United States, but all over the country, all over the world. To that end, for all major AI policy decisions coming from the federal government, the Trump administration will guarantee American workers a seat at the table, and we're very proud of that. Now, I've taken up enough of your time, so I'd like to close with just a quick story. This is a beautiful country, President Macron, and I know that you're proud of it and should be. And yesterday, as I was touring late.
Katie says, America has become a clown show with this guy. Vance said he knows what's going on somewhere based on TV. This is why everyone's looking incessantly. Who are you talking about, Katie? Are you talking about JD Vance? Are you talking about Trump? Um, like who? And what does that mean, somewhere based on TV? Oh, you must be talking about Vance, right? Are you talking about what's happening over in Ukraine? Like how these people are being conscripted, right, to go to war? Because they don't have enough people? Because a lot of their people are dying over there? Honestly, why do you think what's that dude's name? Zelensky came over here, right? He wants us. Right? He said it in interviews. Right? Zelensky wants us to put our sons and our daughters good boots on the ground. This is why he said to President Trump, "It's not affecting you now, but it will." No, it won't. Dude, we the biggest bully on the block, dude. It's not going to affect us. If Ukraine doesn't get absorbed by Russia, it's going to hurt Europe, right? But Europe is a product of their own. They're a product of their own. I'll just be honest with you, stupidity. Right? They poked the bear one too many times. They should not have talked to Ukraine about becoming a part of NATO, and they should not have put those missiles where they did. And we have part to blame of it, because we had a different administration. The guy's an idiot, right? And now and that's what pushes us to the brink of World War III. And that's why people elected Trump. The majority of people elected Trump. There's a lot of younger people that voted for Trump, and the reason why they voted for him is because they don't want to go to war. I mean, who's going to fight the war if we go over there? Who? I'm old, bro. I served. I'm old. The only way I'll have to go to war is like if we don't have enough people to fight. But the people that's going to go to war first, right, are all the young people, the 18 to 30-year-olds. That's what they want now. The people that we have in right now, and the people that they're going to draft, because they've already set up the law to draft people in there. I don't think it's going to happen now because Trump's there. Because Trump will just walk away. So a lot of the people, that's why they voted for him. Because a lot of people don't want to go to war. This is not the 80s like when I grew up, man. When the 80s when I grew up, it was a different time, especially under Reagan. But even Reagan was like that, carry a big stick, right? That's why he built up the defense as a deterrent. This is why he got a big part. Number one, the young men that voted for him, right? Because they know what time it is. They know they would be the ones to go to. Either you're gonna have to go to war, or you're gonna have to dip out of the country. And with the economy being the way it is, and people strapped for cash, I don't know if you can do that. Not everybody can. I know that much. There's people that can't escape areas that are getting flooded or getting ravaged by fire, man, because they don't have the means to do so. Right? It's hard for people to pick up and leave. certain places now. The economy gets better. Hopefully that'll change. But that's what he's talking about. I've seen the videos myself, dude. Is it happening on a mass scale? No, they're running out of people, brother. They're running out of people in Ukraine, right? And it upsets me so much because you have a lot of these bad actors, and a lot of them in Europe that are promoting this kind of stuff, but they won't send their people. Every time you hear a European leader, whether it's in Britain, France, Germany, talk about the war and World War III, they're talking about us. We supply all the funding for a lot of this stuff, right? Whether it's NATO, World Health Organization, all the stuff that we supply them, the U.S. does. So when it comes to military involvement around the world, that's us, dude. There is no NATO. It's they should just do. If you just think of it this way, don't say NATO, just say United States of America, because that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm glad he said what he did, dude. You can't do, bro. You can't come into a person's house and start talking trash. None of us would do. None of us would do it. Most of us are Xbox guys, man. We can't stand PlayStation people coming to our house and start talking trash. They don't own the console. They don't buy the games. If we're sending our games over there, they're not gonna buy them. You know what I'm saying? So, dude, miss me with that. I mean, not you, but with Zelensky, bro. I saw his face, dude. Dude, any parent knows, dude. If your kid was acting like that, dude, they would, come on, dude. You bring the hammer down. I mean, for me, I'm looking past beyond what the media makes these people out to be, right? And you have to, because at the end of the day, there's real world consequences, right? If Zelensky gets his way, dude, we'll be there. Either we'll be okay. I'll put it to you this way: we'll either be there. If it was under Biden, we definitely would have been there, right? And I'm telling you, dude, I ain't sending my kids. I served, dude. I didn't vote for Biden, and I didn't vote for that jerk off, right? And the stuff that he was doing because he wasn't running the country, bro. All of his little minions was, and they have this world view, right, about what America is and what our role should be in the world, and it's antithetical to what this country is, right? Do you think they'll send their people? Most of these guys don't have kids. Right? They live in this liberal socialist bubble, right? And they're making these heavy duty decisions that's going to affect the rest of us. Nah, dude, I'm done with that. Scratch that. Boom. I'm out. Dude, if you voted for Biden and you have kids, then you send your kids. I'm not sending my kids. You send your kids. You believe in his mantra, right? And that's what Trump is trying to negate. And that's why he won a lot of the youth vote, right? Because a lot of these people, they're graduating from college, they want to start their life. They're hoping, okay, well, maybe you can turn the economy right now because I can't buy an apartment, right? I can't afford to pay rent. I got to move back home with my parents. With some of them have law degrees, right? It has nothing to do with the degree you got or the money that you're going to make. You can't afford the cost of living, so a lot of these people move back home with their parents, right? So they were interested in two things: the economy getting better, so they can start building their life, right? And then number two, I don't want to go to a foreign country and get shot. Those are the two major things. Pepe says Europe needs to get off their lazy asses and defend themselves and invest their own money in army and the militaries without the USA paying for everything, doing everything. Yeah, and then Pepe, I'll be honest with you, dude, that was kind of on us too, because we became the security blanket for a lot of people, and we have reasons for doing that, right? Especially in the '80s, right? Especially during the Cold War. It's a very Cold War mentality, of which I believe in, right? I don't think the U.S. should totally renege their responsibilities, but at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, yeah, they do need to do that, especially since they want to make the policy, they want to get involved before they will let the U.S. handle it and just yell. They would Europe would just get mad at us, talk down to us, call us fat, lazy, eat hamburgers instead of getting involved in this war. But then when things went down, then they have to come talk to us, then we have to go over there, and that stuff's getting old on both sides, right? I have no problem with Europe increasing their defensive capability, especially if they want to make these type of decisions, and it affects them more closely than us because we're an ocean away. The amount of money that we spend, one of the things that people don't talk about when it comes to military budget, the amount of money that we spend on logistics. The U.S. is one of the few countries that can project power the way that we do. That's what makes us a force in the world. Now, do we need to be that force anymore? If Europe wants to step up and do things, so be it, right? In fact, for me, dude, it's just like Monday morning quarterbacking at the end of the day. Unless you know, because of the experiences you've had, right? The U.S. has a history of war. Right? This is why you hear Trump. This is why he picked the Secretary of Defense. He's like the war fighter mentality. Right? That's in our DNA as Americans, whether people agree with it or not, or whether they like it or not. We're born. We're war born, man. We're born for war. We're war sworn. We're born for war. Right? And that's why a lot of people. And I understand. Dude, people are having a hard time adjusting. It's bad like that. Signet says, what's crazy? In the UK, you pay for a TV license, meaning in order to watch television, you have to pay. Yeah, yeah. And that's what they were trying to do here under the previous administration. And they wanted to really control the narrative. Again, guys, you guys are Xbox guys. You guys know this. Maybe you're not using this, but I'm just using it as an example. When you saw what the FTC was trying to do with Microsoft, right? Trying to control them. It had nothing to do with AKB deal. It had nothing to do with it's because Microsoft is a big tech giant. It was two big giants going to war with each other, right? Because technology in and of itself can be dangerous as well. It can be used for a bad situation. So the government, who's already been doing that, especially on the Biden administration, right? They were breaking all kind of laws, doing all kind of stuff. So since they already were doing that, they know the potential and where the power lies. And when they looked at tech, who helped them in the 2020 election, but they looked at tech, they realized tech was a threat. Again, I use the analogy of having two supervillains like Doctor Doom and Loki work together. It only lasts for so long because only one of them wants to be in charge, right? And because government had a government had a head start in tech because tech only started in technically started blow up and having amassing power in the 90s when it started to grow on that level, and that the government recognized it, and so the government tried to nip that in the butt. This is why they were going hardcore against the tech industries. They would use it as the guys to try and manage them and stuff like that, but they wanted to take over. And then when what's his name, Zuckerberg, that prick, came on and did an interview, and he basically owned up to it. Man, they were getting calls from the FBI, CIA, telling them what they can and can't put out there, what they wanted the public to know and what not to know. Yeah, so they were definitely trying to do that in the U.S. The U.S. Look, the U.S. is not escaping this as well, dude. It's one of the thing. Vance does this other speech that I thought was awesome, right? And I'll try and get to that. But then again, look, dude, I'm already an hour over, right? Because I know how I get when I talk about this kind of stuff. But he talks about that, and more specifically, in terms of free speech and stuff like that. And that's a whole other way. This was supposed to be just on AI, which I love, right? Which I love that he talked about it. Cops knocking on your door if you don't pay. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, dude, it's the government. It should be for the people, not for themselves, right? We are not a communist country, right? Even though there's people over here that, like in our country, that are like, oh yeah, communism is the way to go. Meanwhile, everything they do is bought by capitalism. Join the winning team, guys. Look, capitalism can be evil. It can be used incorrectly. So let's focus on that. But you're trying to scrap the entire capitalist system, dude. That makes no sense. Yeah, I feel for you, Cygnus, man. I don't know your politics and stuff like that, so I'm not going to get into it. And plus, I'm not a British citizen. So, but welcome, man. Thanks for being here, Pepe, you too, as well as Daniel Berry. Let's wrap this up, guys. I know, again, I'm going off the stream, so let's go. Because I love this last part the most. In fact, I'll go back a little bit.
I'd like to close with just a quick story. This is a beautiful country, President Macron, and I know that you're proud of it and should be. And yesterday, as I was touring Les Invalides with General Gravette with my three kids, he was kind enough to show me the sword that belonged to America's dearest international friend from our own revolution, of course, the Marquis de Lafayette. He let me hold the sword, but of course he made me put on the white gloves beforehand. And it got me thinking of this country, France, and of course of my own country, and of the beautiful civilization that we have built together with weapons like that saber. Weapons that are dangerous in the wrong hands, but are incredible tools for liberty and prosperity in the right hands. I couldn't help but think of the conference today. If we choose the wrong approach on other things that could be conceived of as dangerous, things like AI, and choose to hold ourselves back, it will alter not only our GDP or the stock market, but the very future of the project that Lafayette and the American founders set off to create. Now, this doesn't mean, of course, that all concerns about safety go out the window, but focus matters. And we must focus now on the opportunity to catch lightning in a bottle, unleash our most brilliant innovators, and use AI to improve the well-being of our nations and their peoples. With great confidence, I can say it is an opportunity that the Trump administration will not squander. And we hope everyone convened here today feels exactly the same. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Absolutely, beast. I love the way he closed that out. You know, they're definitely love the example that he used. Um, AI is a tool, man. It's just how you use it. And at the end of the day, that's what we should be concerned or thinking about. Right? Not to be scared, right? But at the same time, be cautious. And if there's one thing that I take away from this That was the main point for me. And I like the example that he used with this sword. Right? We have a history with France. I mean, we have a history with a lot of these countries. Right? At the end of the day, it's not like it's like we're a family, guys. Right? And this is like your older brother, your older sister. Right? America is the youngest. We're the new kids on the block. Right? Um, but that's the one takeaway I think about this. Like you can't run from it, dude. So how can we deal with it? And let's meet it head on, dude. And this is another thing I loved about the new administration, man. You have actually people addressing the issues. You know, how many times have you seen in the previous administration do just they call a cap on everything, man? Biden never addressed anything, never talked about anything, and when he did, it didn't make sense. Right? Just why a lot of people were shocked in that first debate because a lot of people are not politically charged like I am, right? And then they watched the debate and they were like, "Oh my gosh, dude, what's wrong with this guy?" That was like their first introduction to how bad things were under him, and his cognizant reasoning, all that stuff was gone. That dude was not there. Like he wasn't running the government, dude. It was all his little minions. And again, this is something that they like to do, right? They want to control the narrative. They want to control the perspective. They want to control everything, right? So for me, I mean, it's wonderful to see what's going on right now. And I'm not saying you're going to agree with everything, right? There's people that I know that didn't like for the reasons that I like the press conference with Zelensky. These guys absolutely hated it. They thought it was a bad look. You know, everybody has different opinions. I just like the transparency of this government. I mean, but this stuff, whether you want to, if whether you know this or not, dude, if you follow this stuff enough, you understand that this is the stuff that happens behind the scenes. It's no different than a Hollywood production, right? Of movie stars you know, or a movie that you're looking forward to, and then you have all the gossip that goes on behind the scenes. And this is why Entertainment Tonight exists, and the Hollywood Reporter, they would bring that in there, you know. And if you're being a fan, and I'm talking about old school Hollywood fan, so then you would sift through all of that and be like, oh man, you know, this is amazing. And then inside you're like, I knew that was happening. You could tell, right? Same thing with gaming. Gaming has the same thing, right? We sit here and speculate all the time of what Microsoft can and can't do with their brand, which is Xbox, right? And we enjoy that kind of stuff. That part I don't mind. So there's a fandom even to politics, right? But what's happening right now that is, you know, the last 4 years and even before then, things are getting a lot out of control. We need to bring it back to normal. And it's one of the reasons why I absolutely thought this speech was fire. I saw a side of JD Vance not even I knew about. Um, and some people were talking negatively about his cues and stuff like that. I was like, bro, this dude was absolutely on point. After the last 4 years of what we had, I'll take this. So you misspoke a couple times, or you know, he misworded wrong, whatever. Dude, at least he's cognizant. You know, that's a that's a big improvement over what was going on before. But anyway, guys, let's wrap this up. It's been over an hour. Thank you guys for who joined the podcast and dealt with me going all over the place. Again, sorry about the microphone mishap. I'll try and work on that a little bit more. But it's exciting to me, man. I enjoy this kind of stuff. And seeing this stuff, watching all the dominoes fall into place. Shout out to Cygnus for being there, brother. Pepe, thanks for being here as well. Katie the Ghost, brother. I see you, dude. Look, I feel you, bro. I feel like some people don't like these guys, man. But we gotta look beyond our feelings and look beyond personality. And then we gotta see what's going on in the real world because there's gonna be consequences for everything, for every decision that we make moving forward. Because the world is definitely in flux. Dude, the world's in trouble. The world's in trouble right now, dude. And we need people with common sense and practicality to come in and we need to stop all the stuff that's going on and dial it back a notch or two, maybe three. All right, but appreciate you being here, KT, man. Thanks for dropping in. Pepe again, and then Daniel Berry, man. Shout out to you, brother. And I don't know how the WNBA is going to be this year. Excited about it though, very excited about it. More so than I thought, dude. Because there's a lot. Look, I'll just be honest with you. I know I hyper focused on Caitlin Clark, but the WNBA is more than Caitlin Clark. I don't mean that in a negative way, right? There's other aspects to enjoy. It's just like with video games, dude. There's more in Xbox Game Pass besides the run of the mill Halo and Forza because they belong to Microsoft. Right? Great games, but they belong to Microsoft. But take a dip in the indie waters, man. See if you can find something there. You know, I of course I'm being a hypocrite because I've been playing Evolve nonstop. Definitely love the game more than I thought I would. I'll be honest with you guys because it's a bigger game than I thought Obsidian let it to be. I'm in another part of the world and there's just so much more to do. So much leveling up. Love the battle mechanics. Absolutely awesome. The more I increase my power levels and stuff like that, it's almost like solo leveling. Again, solo leveling, guys. I'm gonna shout out solo leveling. If you guys aren't watching solo leveling, please check it out. It's absolutely awesome. I'll probably do a video a little bit later on talking about it. The last episode was absolute fire. Actually went and bought some of the mangas. Well, I don't know what they are. I just call them solo leveling graphic novel because it's not the mangas are different. But I finally went and bought the graphic novels. I was trying to get my daughter to explain it to me. Old man syndrome kicked in, and then I have no idea. Right, I don't want to be bugging her all the time. But I definitely found I'm getting my fix both on the anime and now I'm actually reading a graphic novel. It's so lovely, which is absolutely awesome. Go check it out. It's probably the best anime that's out there right now. Not just it's definitely the most popular one right now, right? But definitely go check it out because it is awesome. Yeah, thank you, Cygnus. Appreciate it. And then Pepe Le Pew says they look at the U.S. as if it was free ATM with no spending limit cap. Yeah, Pepe. Unfortunately, there is, right, and a lot of it falls on us because we've done a lot of stupid things here. We've reneged on our responsibility, and I'll say this much: I'm just being honest with you. We've reneged on our responsibility to the rest of the world as well because we didn't take care of our own business at home, and we need to get back to doing that. And that's what the president is doing. Right, he's making us take care of our business. We had a credit card, we ran it too much. Now we got to now it's time for the pain. That's what we're all experiencing. Shoot, I'm experiencing it myself right now because of my job prospects and stuff like that. So we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, 100% right, dude. And we need to course correct. That's the main goal. Course correct. Let's get back together. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Xbox All In channel. Host Saker Forever. We out.